mechanisms, like applying a network security group, applying a application security group, configuring an Azure firewall, creating a database, creating a database, but understanding the security features around it in the cloud model, creating a simple blob storage, and how do you enable a security endpoint for the blob storage is what we have learned in the last few classes. And there are few more technologies that are important. Like in today's world, we always talk about DevOps, right? Wherever you see people talk about DevOps. Yeah, because that's going to be one norm that is there in every organization. Irrespective of type of organization, type of product, type of service you develop, DevOps is going to gain that popularity. And it's actually gaining that. And people have already implemented. People have already moved from the world of DevOps to DevSecOps. And people already left from DevSecOps to the site reliability engineering plus chaos engineering. This is the path that people are following. Now, there are some organizations which are struggling to still put up DevOps. There are some organizations which are struggling to put up DevSecOps. Some organizations struggling to put up SRE and chaos engineering components. No, but for our course, these two are important. In case if you are getting into Azure Engineer, these two components are important for you. The reason is there are so many components in this DevSecOps world, which is going to play a very, very important role in our Azure learning. And one such component is the key vault. One such component is the key vault. But why do you need a key vault? Let's understand. If we understand the phases of a DevSecOps, we will clearly get an idea. A typical DevSecOps life cycle will look like this. One second. This is not clear. One second. Yeah, a typical DevOps will look like this. DevSecOps will look like this. In a typical operations, you have a planning at the time of software development. Then you will go for coding. Then you will go for building, then testing, then release, deployment, upgrading, downgrading, patching, that is operations, and then continuously monitoring for the threats as well as health. Now, in the world of dev, code review is a part of security. SAST, static source code analysis, is a security. Building, software composition analysis. At the time of test, you have DAST, dynamic application security testing and penetration testing. And then at the time of release, compliance validation and threat model policies. Then at the time of operations, logging and auditing, threat intelligence, patch, and security monitoring. Now, this is a typical life cycle. Now, many people today, when they adopt cloud and they go for different type of services in the cloud to satisfy some of these requirements. One such requirement is throughout this, there is not one tool. Throughout the journey, there is no one tool. There may be 30, 40 tools they are used in an organization. There may be 3 or 4 tools used in an organization based on how complex their organization is. Based on how complex their organization is, things are going to change. Yeah. So now how do you make integration between them? For example, I need I need to integrate my build tool with code tool, build tool with release tool with deployment tool with patch management tool with monitoring tool with again planning tool. I need to integrate. I need to integrate between different tools. And today integration between different tools is very common component. So how do you integrate between tool number 1 and tool number 2? Mostly using APIs. Today we use mostly APIs, application programming interface. Now, obviously, right, I cannot make a API open. Will you make your application open to internet without say, okay, no authentication is required. Anyone can come and use my application. No, right? You want to maintain, okay, only specific users who pay you money, only specific users who has actually registered, you want them to use. So that means you need to put an authentication mechanism. Very similarly, you will never expose an API to internet. API is a form of communication. Yeah, rather than having a front end, for example, if your mobile application has to talk to the server, they talk with the help of a REST API. Now, so what they do, they say that, okay, we don't have authentication. We don't have a username based authentication, username password based authentication. Rather, what we will do, we will go ahead and create a token. T application T2 or app1 or app1. App1 will send data to app2 with a token. And app2, if the token is right, it will validate. And then allow the request to communicate. App2 will send request to app1 with a token. And it will validate the token. And if the token is fine, it will allow the traffic. Now, where will you store the token? Will you store it in the application server 1 or application server 2? This is a challenge. Today, we have so many applications in our day-to-day environment where you have to store tokens. You have to have keys. You need to have usernames, passwords. You may have to have certificates. Do we have a solution which can actually store, rather than storing these tokens in a plain text on the server, can I store it in a place where they are encrypted and they cannot be retrieved in the plain text? Or if you want, you can retrieve it in the plain text, but only when you have a valid authentication. What can I go ahead and store these certificates? For example, this is a HTTPS based communication. That means you need a digital certificate here. This is a HTTPS based communication. Then I need a digital certificate, and I need this digital certificate to be revoked after 365 days. That means every year key rotation should happen. The certificate rotation should happen. Can I get a tool which can do the certificate rotation? Yes, we have a tool called as Vault. There are multiple providers of Vault. One of the best provider as of now is HashiCorp data center for the data center world. However, HashiCorp Vault is also available for cloud. But if you're looking at a cloud provider for Azure, you have Azure Key Vault. For AWS, you have HSM and any other KMS, Key Management Service, and AWS HSM. You could have heard about Tails data center firmware, a firmware which comes as a box and you can place that box. Tails HSM. So this one and this one is typically used in data centers. This is a cloud models. Yeah. Any questions? Sorry. Yeah, continue.
Yeah. Is this same as Gano Privacy Guard, which is providing those certificate facilities or the key maintenance facilities?
Absolutely. So if you are able to store a certificate, retrieve a certificate and auto registration of a certificate. And not only, it should not only support certificate, it should support all types of keys. It can be a token, it can be a identity, it can be a certificate, it can be a username, password. It should be in a position to support everything. That is typically considered as a vault, which can handle all types of your requirements, not only one sort of requirement.
So the communication to the vault is encrypted.
The communication to the vault is encrypted, to and fro communication is encrypted, data at rest on the vault is encrypted. Again,
Oh,
you can choose to disable it. Absolutely.
okay. So every time, whenever someone has to communicate using the APIs, their IDs are in turn sent to the vault, and vault is going to validate if it is acceptable or not.
Yes. So it's so typically in the world of vault environment, right? It's all about programming. It's all about programming, nothing about configuration. Very less configuration and much of the programming. So let's say how a typical vault works. Okay, I'm just taking a typical vault example, nothing to do with Azure Vault. I'll explain you first vault working, and then second I'll give you. Just give you an image, so it should be easy for us to first understand. I'll take a smallest example and then we will go. Yeah, let's take this. I'm taking HashiCorp World because it gives us a good thing. So just have an observation here. So this is your client. Your client will try to authenticate with your GitHub, with your AWS, with your Google, whatever, Okta, LDAP, username, password, SSL. It can be any type of authentication that your identity and access management will provide. Okay. Now, this identity and access management, it doesn't take decision on its own. Rather, it will send it to the secrets manager, who will ask you, hey, please generate a one-time OTP. Please generate a key value pair. Please give me the database access token. So a random token will be given and that token is passed to the client. So username password verification happens here. Once the username password verification happened, it will give a go ahead to the vault. Vault will randomly generate a token and then send to the client so that the client can access the database. It will be a loop. It should be very, it is a little confusing. So no problem. We will go step by step. This is one method. This is one method of implementing a vault.
Michael, can you please repeat this part? I missed it.
Yeah. See, for example, I'll remove the vault from the picture. Remove the vault from the picture. Let's understand a very simple thing. So typically today, when you want to authenticate with Gmail, what will happen? You log into Gmail, you enter the username password. The moment you enter the username password, it is sent to the server. At server side, there is a database, no, in which your username password is stored. If your username and password is matching, automatically it will give a token for you. And then you are logged in. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, when you bring a vault, what is used for what? To get access to multiple services. To get access to multiple services, you will use vault. So let's understand. I need to log into the database. I need to log into the database. Typically, in your day-to-day life, you will use single sign-on or you will use every database separate username password or every application separate username password.
Single sign-on.
Single sign-on.
You will always use single sign-on, right? Why are you using single sign-on? Why can't I use one username password for everything? What is wrong? Is there anything wrong if I use one username password for everything?
Just ease of using.
That's it. Yeah, ease of using. Then if a credential is compromised, you can rotate all credentials in one go. Yeah, disable. If you want to disable a user account, if there is a manually, see, think this way from a security point of view. Think I have 100 usernames passwords for one user and he is compromised. So how many systems I have to log in and disable accounts? I have to log into 100 systems and disable, and I have a 10,000 employee. Can I manage 10,000 employees like this?
No.
I cannot do that, right? No, that's what we are going to do. We'll say, okay, I want single sign-on with one username password. So I log into a database, I use the same username password. I log into the database, I use the same username password. Yeah. I log into the HR management system, same username password. I will log into a server, same username password. In a regular world, what will happen is, you trying to log into a server. So let's take a Windows server. You enter the username password. Do you think this Windows server knows your username password? No, it will send it to the Active Directory. Clear? It will send to the Active Directory. Active Directory will issue a token and token will be passed to the user. Clear? Are you getting it? Your Windows server doesn't store your credentials. When you say I will log into a Windows server, it will go to the Active Directory, get the credentials and respond back. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Any questions here? Now, why should I put Active Directory? For example, this is a HR management database. If Nishant wants to log into the HR management database, he enters the username password. HR database will go to Active Directory, validate Nishant's credentials and come back and gives access. Clear? You have to look from two personas. One is an administrator persona. The other one is an end user persona. You are looking from an administrator persona. OK. The persona is from administrator point of view, not from an end user point of view. Clear?
When we manage all the authentication in the Active Directory level, then we can control anything.
Yeah, you just disable an account in Active Directory. Okay. Whenever you're trying to log into a third party system, again, it should go to Active Directory for validation. The account is disabled. So it will respond back. Account is disabled. Clear? Any questions? This is one method. This is one method. Can we reverse this method? I will reverse the method. Yeah. This is a different method. Rather than sending directly to the Windows server, you will send it to the Vault itself. You will ask Vault, hey, am I authorized user? Am I authorized user? If I'm an authorized user, tell me what and all I can access. Tell me what and all I can access. Oh, Nishan, you are able to access a lab server. You are capable of accessing database 1, database 2, database 3, database 4. And once I get all the details, I can go into any server and access. That is a different method. This is a different method.
This will be for authentication or authorization or both?
Both. Both. Authentication and authorization, you can use Vault. Yeah.
But how will this key vault will
No, that is all configuration. That's all configuration. First, you are understanding theory. Theoretically, this is how it works. But configuration wise, it's entirely different. That's what I'm telling you. There's a lot of programming involved in this, where you need to have an identity provider integrated with the Vault using REST APIs. They have their own method of exchanging the data. That and all is hidden from you at this moment. First, understand the flow, use case, then it is easy. Yeah. Vault itself is a very big subject. Huh? I train people on Vault for 12 days. Only Vault concept. Yeah, let's leave that. At this moment, understand the basics, understand the flow, how they work. It's only programming. That you only until you code it, you will realize it. OK. So just observe this scenario then. Observe a scenario. Me, as an administrator, I will go to the Vault. I will enroll myself. I will enroll myself into the Vault. And obviously, based on my details, Vault will give me permissions. Vault will already have all the feeded permissions. And then I would like to access an application. I would like to access an application. So I will enter my username. I'll enter my password. Role ID is username. Secret ID is password. See, the terms are going to change. The terms will change when you come to the Vault. They will never consider it as, oh, you are sending username and you're sending password. No, they will consider it as role ID and secret ID. Leave about these terms. These terms will change from Vault to Vault. Today, this Vault is calling role ID. Some other Vault will call it as XXX ID. We don't know. Don't worry about that. Some identity, username, password. Just still think like username, password. So you are sending a username, password to the application. Your application will send it to Vault asking, hey, Vault, I have got a username, password called as Nishant. Is it valid? If it is valid, Vault will return the token. So you are replacing Active Directory with Vault. You are replacing Active Directory with the Vault. Clear? In the previous case, the application was talking to the server Active Directory, right? Now we are replacing Active Directory with Vault. But the problem is people cannot digest this. Why? If I ask people to replace the Active Directory with Vault, you know what they will say? Nishant, we have huge amount of licenses. We have been using these for the last few years. Now, if you now a new technology came, you cannot ask us to treat the legacy technology. You know what people will say? People will restrict. People will start restricting using the latest technologies. But you being a solutions architect, what you need to tell? Okay, Baba, don't worry. We will not go for the latest technology fully. Rather, you know what we will do? We will use the old technology and we will use the latest technology together so that both of our egos are satisfied. Correct, no? Because you want to go stick with the old technology because you're not in a position to change. Obviously, no, you are having so much of infrastructure integrated with Active Directory. You cannot move anything. But rather what you do, slowly you will restructure your organization. You will restructure your organization and say, OK, I already have my Active Directory. Maybe if I'm working on Azure Active Directory, if I'm working on local Active Directory. So the same process will happen. I'll go ahead and send my credentials to Vault. Vault will look at the policy. Before, Azure Active Directory used to look at the policy. Now Vault will look at the policy and then verify the credentials. If everything is fine, I'll return a access token. I'll return an access token. By taking this token, I'll go to any application which is integrated with the Vault and then access it. There is access, authentication and authorization. What we are talking all about is the authentication. Once the authentication is done, the token is passed to the database, then the database will authorize it. Database will authorize it to get in. Server will authorize it to get in. So there are so many components involved here. Clear? And this is one of the most underrated or taken area. Everyone want firewall. Everyone want to write a firewall rule only, but no one want to implement this kind of complex technologies. This is a complex technology. Trust me, this is a very complex technology. And identity and access management. You may be thinking, what is this guys, IAM guys doing? This job only they will do. Integrating multiple systems for a seamless single sign-on authentication. And obviously, you have to treat IAM also as a security engineers. They are also security engineers. Yeah, let's keep the platform open for some questions, discussions, and then we'll go.
Nishant, I'm just curious, we tend to hear the more complexity happens within the security domain, you will have a more loopholes opened up.
Absolutely.
So how basically this will, the complexity of this infra of the architecture will address those loopholes?
Now, when we say loopholes, right, it's a very wide word. We should be very specific in what loophole it is.
In
Correct.
a
For
way,
example, what I will tell. Let me put it this way. Oh, I don't have a firewall before. I don't have a firewall. Now, one of the laymen is asking me that one of the marketing guy, let's say, is asking me, hey, before it was very easy. Wi-Fi was speed, everything was speed. Now you bought firewall and you're making it complex. Now, what is your opinion on it? A marketing guy is telling to you as a security engineer that you are making things complex. What is your opinion? Now you need to hire a firewall engineer. You need to hire him to write the rules. Why are you making complex? Remove the firewall. Let the internet be there. Everyone is happy, no? What is your opinion there? So you're bringing complexity, no? Now, if you're bringing complexity, he's thinking that loopholes will come.
Yeah.
What is his perspective? His perspective is that bringing firewall will loopholes. But ideally, you know that you as a firewall engineer know that this is going to add value. So for that value, it is okay to compromise his happiness. Yeah, the same thing will happen with the vault. If you bring vault, it is very difficult for people to say that, okay, why are we bringing third component? Now we need to integrate. This is from an admin point of view. Look from a user point of view. You are not giving credentials for permanent. Vault has a capability to generate credentials only for 24 hours. It has a capability to generate password for 1 hour. So you ask based on the role that you have, it will only generate access for 1 hour. That means this token is valid only for 1 hour. After 1 hour, this token is invalid. You will be kicked out of the system. This is called as just-in-time access. It's a new technology where rather than giving access for the lifelong, for example, today, if a user asks me, Nishant, I want admin privileges. I want to install a software. What will you do? You will go ahead and add him into the administrator group. Correct? Correct or wrong? You will go ahead and add him into the administrator group and you forget. So he has no. Till you remove him, he has the credentials. But rather what I will tell, okay, let him, he want to install a software. I'll ask how much time it will take to install a software. He will say 15 minutes. Okay, I'll give him 30 minutes access. So in any worst case, he has 15 more minutes buffer. And after 15 more minutes, without the admin's intervention, the ID is disabled. That's called as just-in-time access. So if a person is trying to elevate his privileges for any reason, he will only get access to that given time. Now, what is the benefit of this? For example, if I am a hacker who got access to one of the systems, and if I want to do lateral movement in the organization, that means, for example, I got access to one of the systems, Windows servers, hacker, and using Mimikatz. he has dumped the passwords and he got the admin password. Now he is trying to switch from one PC to another PC with the credentials. And then this PC should have a control that anyone who is accessing these credentials should only have 1 hour access, so that hacker will not get continuous access to that system. He will be kicked out immediately. He will be kicked out immediately after 1 hour or 15 minutes. He will not be having continuous session. And because he will be kicked out immediately, he has to log in again. So because every time he logs in after 15 minutes or 20 minutes or a half an hour, Active Directory will generate the logs. These Active Directory logs are sent to the SIM for analysis. And the SIM engineers should be capable enough to immediately trigger that this is something which is happening, a frequent access to the server. That too with an ID where only 15 minutes access is there from your policies. It's an overall structure for an organization to understand. I hope you understood, right? Why we are putting a technology called as this to address some other components. Again, I'm not sure whether you are able to visualize as I was speaking.
I can probably link to one of the other activity we generally see it from IAM perspective.
Sure,
that is privileged ID management. And this privileged ID management comes with some change management, and then the ID will be released and with certain amount of time. It could be 1 hour or 2 hour based on the change.
Tell me, 2 hours is a very tough time for me. For my kind of business, I cannot take 2 hours time to just to get me access to a system.
Correct, but I was just saying an example, but it depends on how much change that really takes to happen in the system. It could be 24 hours.
That is why I was talking you about DevSecOps example. In the world of DevSecOps, you cannot wait, you cannot take time. Immediate things should happen. Things in DevSecOps world should happen immediately because it's an automated pipeline. That's why I started with DevSecOps. DevSecOps is a fully automated pipeline. That means there is no human intervention. Human only comes into the picture at the time of software development. The moment he commits the code onto the source code management system, everything is automated. Now, in this automated world, you cannot wait for a user to generate a credentials and give the credentials to you. But the system, we should give a capability to the system to dynamically generate the credentials after completing the job, dynamically delete the credentials. That kind of capability we need to give. That kind of capability you can only give when you have a tool that is capable. And Vault is one type of tool which is capable of doing it. Correct. For example, in a regular day, what I will happen is, for example, you are Pawan, who is an IAM. I'm asking, hey Pawan, I have newly joined and I would like to spin up a server. Can you give me access to the Azure portal? What will you do? You'll ask me to raise a ticket.
Yeah.
I will go to the ticket. I'll fill the ticket and then it will come to you. You will validate me. You will write 6 or 7 policies. You will take your manager approval. You will check with my manager and then you will give it to me. Correct? Yeah. How much time it took? 10 minutes? I cannot wait for 10 minutes. Ideally, you will not take 10 minutes. It will be more than half a day. Yeah. I cannot take that. I cannot take a 10-minute downtime. I cannot have a 10-minute delay. I want immediate. Immediate means Nishant requested, credential got, he used it, and it is killed immediately. The credentials are disabled. A very, very dynamic nature. So in the world of dynamic infrastructure, you need dynamic natured systems. So let's ask a very simple question. Any one of you who know what is a service principles? Sorry, okay, leave it service principles, service accounts. You know what is a service account?
Yep.
Okay, George, good. Sorry, Joel. Now tell me what is a service account and how do I use? Okay, just enlighten me here. So for example, I have a Windows server. Yeah, I have a Windows server. And my users are accessing a web application which is there on the Windows server. IIS is there, okay? And then I have a database. I have a million customers now. I have a million customers who are accessing this system. Are we good? And this server is having access to the database, right? They are reading the data from the database and web application is giving the access to the users. Now what happened is we have started marketing. My marketing team has started marketing about our product. And suddenly I have 1.5 million requests per day now. Do you think my server is capable of handling? It has already reached 90% of the CPU, 90% of the RAM. It's already becoming slow. And now again, a 500,000 users came. What will I do? I'll put a load balancer.
Yep.
But if you put a load balancer also, you only have one server. Will it
Yeah,
satisfy
the
your
backup.
requirement?
No.
No. What you will do? You will create a different
Secondaries.
server.
Yep.
Now tell me, that means how much time will you take to create this server? Create the server, install the operating system, configure your application, and then assign a service account, because already with the service account only it will access, no? Assign a service account and attach it to the DB, attach it to the load balancer. How much time it will take? In an ideal case, 2 hours, 3 hours it will take. But you have to give a capability called as auto scaling. Auto scaling means as the customers come, my number of services will increase. As the customers goes down, my number of services will go down. Dynamic infrastructure. That means I need to provision all this infrastructure dynamically using infrastructure as a code automation. Using a tool called as infrastructure as a code procedure, I need to automatically spin up these instances. And then if the load is going down, I should delete these instances. Now that means if I am going to spin up the instances, I need to spin up the service accounts also. I need to attach the service accounts to the database also. How will I generate service accounts dynamically as the servers get created? Tools like Vault can do it. So you ask Vault, hey Vault, generate 20 credentials. Vault will generate 20 credentials. You create 20 servers, attach those 20 credentials to the 20 servers, and then they will have access to the database. After that, infrastructure as a code will say terminate all the 20 accounts. I'm terminating 20 servers, all 20 servers gone. A fully dynamic infrastructure. And this is what we are aiming for. This is what we are aiming in the real world infrastructure, where security engineers will never come. This is all done by the DevOps automation engineers. But why should a security engineer never be informed about it? What happens tomorrow? You are doing vulnerability assessment. In January month, you had 200 PCs that you have to scan. But in February month, I have done marketing. And when I'm doing a vulnerability assessment in February, I'm getting 250 systems. How did these 50 systems increase? As a VA engineer, is it your responsibility to understand why this 50 systems has increased from last month to this month? And why so many new systems have come up? Previously, I was 60% compliance. Now, because 250 systems have come, now I am only 30% compliant to the thing. And as a security engineer, it's your responsibility that every system is in compliant with the policies. Correct? No, some DevOps team is creating so many instances, so many infrastructure, and VAPT team is never informed about the scalability. And suddenly people are asking, hey, we have 250 systems, can you pen test it? That cannot work out. You will be having a heavy load. Again, I'm taking from multiple people's perspective here. That's why I was telling security, what you're thinking is very, very small part. Firewall is a very small part. Access control is a very small part of entire big security picture. This everything has to be holistically integrated, and each and every security component cannot be neglected. That's why in defense in depth model, you have 100 technologies that you will implement in an organization. You can ask me, Ishant, I am a firewall engineer. Why is this important for me? I am an IAM engineer. Why firewall is important to me? Yeah, you are a security engineer, right? Ultimately, you may be specialized in firewall, but you should know identity and access management. Oh, you may be an identity access management specialist, but you should have fundamentals of firewall. You should know fundamentals of firewall, may not be expert. Yeah. So because you are learning security architecture course, architecture means you have to understand each and every component in that big architecture. So I'm trying to touch all components like NSG, firewall, database security, blob storage, service endpoints, key vault that I'm going to talk, and then role-based access control, policies, and resource management. Yeah, you are getting it from where I am coming. I hope you got a holistic picture, right? Of
Yeah.
how many components will be there and how so many components are integrated together. So how many of you have seen this kind of component integration or done before? Yeah, any one of you have done any integration? Yeah, good, Niranjan. So please do let me know if you have any questions on these architectures, then we will talk about it. The most complex architecture is building an automated CI/CD pipeline on cloud and on prem. If you are able to crack that in a full automation, that means you are a very good security engineer. That I can assure. From a defensive point of view, defensive. You are a good defensive security engineer, not offensive. Offensive needs a different skill. That's what I started my class now. There is offensive security, defensive security. What I'm talking now is about defensive security, not offensive security. Yeah. Any questions? DevSecOps
So
is the
this is
most
like
complex
using
thing.
Jenkins and Jenkins kind of tool
Jenkins
too.
is one tool. Jenkins is a very, very small tool out of this entire game. There are so many other components. If I have to take only an automated end-to-end automated pipeline, this is how end-to-end automated pipeline will look like. For Azure, only if you take Azure end-to-end pipeline, the end-to-end pipeline would look like this. I would give you like 5 minutes. I want you to take 5 minutes time and read everything here. Like what is one, what is two, what is three. You just go through it. Then I'll explain it. This is a complex pipeline that as a defensive engineer that you will build in your organization for doing end-to-end automation. A complex solution architecture. Okay. I hope you're going through, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in the world of cloud, firewall is a very, very small part. Very small part. What when we say cloud security is this. Every component that you are integrating into your environment should come with a security or should have a security attached to it. Okay, question we got here. Is this 13th item? Yeah, that's the energy. Correct. Correct. That is the energy. You can define it with different colors, but that's okay. You can assume that. Rather than energy, you can consider it as a Azure Defender for cloud. That's better. Better way of looking at it. Got it, Niranjan?
Yes, Nishan, I got it.
Defender for cloud.
Okay.
Now, in case if you would like to build a secure end-to-end secure automated pipeline as well as infrastructure management. So it's something like this. Again, there are only limited components in this. For example, I can replace Kubernetes with VM services, container registry with JFrog, or Azure package manager. Replace Azure pipelines with Jenkins. The moment you change Azure pipelines with Jenkins, different kind of security will come into the picture.
So here, after the second point where GitHub is there, so that can be replaced with the Azure DevOps repo, right?
Correct, correct. Replace GitHub with Azure DevOps repo, Bitbucket, or any third-party source code management tool. Yeah, replace Azure pipelines with Jenkins, Drone CI/CD, or Teams Foundation, or Azure DevOps, and replace anything with this. Replace this with Jenkins, sorry, Artifactory, Docker Hub. Replace this with Azure VMs. Replace this with load balancer. Yeah, replace this with automation scripts. Replace this with MySQL. You can replace this with Nagios, Prometheus monitoring tools. You can replace this with SIM solutions. You can replace this with HashiCorp Vault. You can replace this with Active Directory and Policy Manager, like the Policy Manager things. You can replace this with Jira. You can replace this with the RSA token. You can replace this with the LDAP. Yeah. Okay, let's not get confused so much as there, but we'll take very simple few things today for today's understanding, and we will go for it. You understood that, right? How different complex architectures will be there for us today. In the big architecture, we will learn one component called as key vault. Yeah. First, let's do hands-on. When you do hands-on, things will be easy. So. So for example, if you would like to store your keys, when I say keys, right? It can be a token, it can be a secret, it can be a username, password, it can be a certificate. You can go ahead and store them in Azure Vault. Azure Vault is capable of encrypting them. Yeah, and millions of keys also can encrypted and then decrypted. Yeah, and your applications doesn't have direct access to the keys. Rather, application will talk to the vault and vault will retrieve the key from its database and reply back. Typically, vault are designed, the hardware for the vault in the background will be using FIPS 142 and level 3 validated hardware HSMs. Typically on a hardware security module, this vault software will sit. They follow typically 142 and level 3 compliance. You know what is 142 level 3 compliance means? Anyone who is trying to open the hardware, the moment they try to open the box, the data on that device will be corrupted. You cannot retrieve the data from the FIPS 142 level 3 hardware. No, you cannot get the data back. It's not like you open a PC and then get the hard disk. No, the moment you open the box, the data on that will be corrupted. There is no other go. This is a kind of devices that are used in banks. These devices are used in banks, credit card printing companies, and sensitive places where they want their keys to be rotated dynamically, stored in a sensitive box, and can only be accessed. And the key will not be stored as it is. It will be split into multiple chunks, and multiple chunks are stored in multiple hardware in a cluster. Is a typical HSM. So anyone working in banks here? Any one of you have worked in bank before?
I work in bank, but I don't have the visibility of HSM.
Okay, maybe try to see if you can get access to the HSM ones.
Yeah.
When I say bank, bank software side or bank that regular implementation, infrastructure implementation.
Okay, so this is in the backend. I mean, on the other
Data
side.
center.
Yeah. No,
But
not
if
data
you are,
center. Not data center. It's completely into where you look into risk and controls, right? Nothing.
okay. Oh, risk control means you should know, no, because as a part of risk management,
HSM?
you will do, no.
Yeah, HSM we get to hear, but physically I haven't seen how it generally operates. Like the detail what you mentioned, the moment we get into the box, the things will get corrupted. So those details I was not aware. So I'm just hearing.
Okay. No worries. Just try to visit, try to go back to see, try to go back and see your risk assessment methodology. Maybe they could have written there HSM and all, and then maybe in your policies and procedures it will be written. Just have a look at it. It will be a good thing for you to understand that environment. That piece of environment is a little gray area for many people. That's acceptable. Yeah. Now, Azure Key Vault has.
Nishant, I have a question.
Yeah.
So these are the standards even followed by Azure, is it, in the data centers?
Correct. They
So
use the exactly same standard, FIPS 142 level 3 standard hardware.
so if user wants to really check if they're using it or not, will they allow, or
No,
it's just taken by word?
it's a contract. Actually, right? Many of us don't read the contract or license agreement. Like, we take not only you, not only me. Big companies don't read the contracts. Do you know that? They create an Azure account, that's it. But in that big policies, there's a huge list of hardware specifications that they will give. That what kind of hardware they use and all, but which we typically don't look at it. Yes, it's actually given. It's a part of the contract that they will go ahead and disclose what kind of security mechanisms they use. So now Azure provides you two different ways. One is a managed HSM. One is managed HSM. That means a special box will be allocated to you. A special box will be allocated to you only for you. Only for you means only for you. Then they have a vault where there are two types. One is software protected and then HSAM protected. This is Azure capability. This is devices like Thales they will use. This is fully managed for you. That means one HSM is fully allocated to you, but that comes with a cost. This is a shared HSM. That means for multiple customers, they will use the same HSM to share. So that's why when you create a vault, you see this is your whatever the vault name vault.azure.net. But here they will give you a special domain only for you, and anything that happens from this domain will be stored in your special box. And how does the box look like? The box will look like this. Yeah, this is the HSM box, hardware security module. But let me ask this question. Is cryptography is a part of security? Is cryptography is a security?
Yep.
Yes, it
But
is.
firewall engineers will never consider that, no? Or IAM people will never consider cryptography as a thing. Is it? It is actually. Yeah. So that's why your HSMs are capable of protecting your keys using algorithms like elliptic curve key, RSA key, symmetric. And different type of key types are supported by different types of HSMs. So they support 2048-bit key, 3072, 4096, P256, P384, P521, P256K. Then elliptic curve, RSA, symmetric. And then they have a FIPS compliance level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 is, software protected keys in vaults. Level 2 is HSM protected keys in vaults, and level 3 is HSM protected keys in managed HSM. Okay, let's ask how many of you have implemented 27001 here before in their career? 27001. Anyone? No one? Okay, that's fine. Okay. What is 27001? Can anyone tell me?
ISO compliance.
Why should we implement?
It covers all these standard controls, which basically helps in securing your the organization data, the infrastructure. It basically covers all 14 different domains. So that basically tells you what controls helps you in securing some data. If it talks about access controls, it touches upon various other controls.
So that means why do we need this? Why do we need this? Because we want to protect. Now, ISO 27001 talks a lot of security measures. Does it talk about cryptography? Does 27001 talk about cryptography?
Yes, it covers standards of cryptography.
Good. So now what is the section? Any idea? Which section? 810.
7 or 8, I guess.
No worries. No worries. It's very difficult to remember.
Yeah.
After implementing in 10 companies, it's difficult to remember for me. So don't worry.
And again, there is another change in this 27001.
Yeah. 2013 version is not talking about HSMs and key vaults, but 2021, the one which is going to release hopefully this year, will talk about HSM and cloud security, mainly this concept. Yeah. See, typically this 27001 has a policy on the usage of cryptographic controls, a policy on the key management. So how do you manage your keys then? See, your 27001 is talking about key management. And if your organization is implementing 27001, that means you could have implemented a key management solution. What key management solution did you implement? Is it capable of, protecting all your keys? First of all, will you tell me, sir? No, Nishant, we don't have any keys. That you cannot tell. In any organization, they cannot tell we cannot use, like, we don't have keys. They will have keys for sure. Your SSL certificate is a key. So if your website has an SSL, then you have a key. Yeah, private key and public key will be there, no? So there are many places where cryptography is referred. To protect this cryptographic material, you need to use vaults. Yeah. Any questions, friends, on the importance of vault? I know I'm talking a lot on vault, but yes, this is very important and most neglected control from a security point of view. But when you come to the cloud, your perspective will change. In the world of cloud, firewall, load balancer, web application firewall are the least preferred ones. We don't care about them. What we care about these concepts, because these are complex to implement. Firewall is easy to implement. But anyway, I'll just go ahead and explain that also. Don't worry. We already discussed. Yeah. What is the benefit of vault is you can do key rotation. Key rotation means every 15 days you can rotate a key and your application will not be affected. Your application doesn't know it. Your application will only know that I should talk to Vault and Vault will give me the right information. It is the responsibility of the Vault to auto rotate your keys. Programmatically, you can rotate it, or manually you can write scheduler jobs to rotate it.
Nishant, when we say auto rotate, that means the keys are unique in nature. That
Yes,
means
the keys will get rotated automatically, uniquely.
okay.
So for example, today we have 45 days, no? In your organization, 45 days or 60 days? Password expiry.
86 days.
86 days are.
Yeah.
So much, huh? Only 45 days is considered as more now. In my organization, 30 days only. I'm so worried. Anyway, we are central bank, so obviously there is a difference. See, thing is, no, this key rotation is very, very important because you as an organization will rotate your passwords. But how about the service accounts? Keys, API keys, all this has to be rotated, no? They're also credentials, right? If you have a credentials management policy in your organization, and if you have identified that as a risk, that means you have to implement a technology which can do the rotation for you, right? And this guy, Vault can do the rotation. Yeah.
Can we set a rule for different keys where
Yeah,
they
different
can...
rules can be configured. So you can say, OK, this set of keys should be rotated 30 days. This set of keys should be rotated 90 days. This set of keys can be rotated 600 days. You can do it, no problem. Next week, I'm delivering a training for bank software developers who are working in the bank. Yeah, we are going to have a discussion of 6 days only on Vault, nothing. Only Vault architectures, Vault configuration, Vault management. And this is for those people who are architects, not for employees. These are software architects across the bank. So there's a lot of depth also only in Vault. You can make a full career only in Vault. Yeah. The reason I'm emphasizing this is an area which is neglected and you can tap. Yeah. So there are a couple of capabilities for Vault. Like you can go ahead and do soft deletion. Soft deletion means if you want, you can retrieve it back. Yeah, you can, if you want, you can go ahead and retrieve it back. So there is no like without a soft deletion also you can do. If you go ahead and delete the key, it's gone. So this is with the soft deletion. This is without a soft deletion. Yeah. So shall we go for a demonstration very quickly on how Vault can be done? I'll go ahead and give you a very quick glimpse of how it works. Let's see whether it is fitting your requirements or not. OK. Now, let me go ahead and start the Vault configuration.
Nisha, one small question.
Yep.
This Vault is only for cloud implementation, or is it also available for?
No. Anywhere. Data center is also fine, or you can do it in non-data center world also. Anything is fine. There's nothing specific that, okay, you should only use Vault for this condition. Nothing like that.
And are the companies supposed to implement 27001 ISO standards across our?
No, see, they are not supposed to implement. If they want best practices to be implemented, they can approach 27001. See, 27001 is just one compliance program. If I have to look at, I'll just show you the compliance programs of Azure Cloud, just to get a fair idea. This is Azure. Azure have implemented all these compliance programs in their cloud. CIS benchmark, CSS star, certification, self-assessment, SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3. Global certifications like 20,000, 2301, 27001, which is information security management system, which we are talking, 27017, privacy management, privacy implementation, quality management, US government, DOD, IL1, IL4, IL5, IL6, US government, NIST 800, 161, 171, cybersecurity framework, FedRAMP, yeah, Financial Services Act, financial services for different countries, life sciences like HIPAA, high trust. GDPR also is implemented. So these many compliance programs are implemented by Azure. Why? Because they operate across the world. They operate across the world and they empower each and every customer. So it is their responsibility as Azure to be in compliant with almost every standard in the world. Obviously, right? See, my company just boosting myself. I'm 27001. If I'm boosting only myself as 27001 and I'm a very good company, think about companies like Azure. What kind of security they should have? Again, you may also ask me, Nishan, there are so many hacks that are happening. Nah, that hacks are happening because it is our mistake. As an end user, we are not configuring them properly. They provide all services. Yeah, someone was telling, I just was cutting them. Anyone?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, are we
One
good?
quick question, Nishan.
Yeah.
So this, whatever compliance that we see, this is the Azure's compliance that it
Correct.
owns. So if as an organization, I'm using the Azure services, so even the organization would also, depending on their needs, they also need to get the compliance done, is it?
No, they are already compliant. They're already compliant. You're already using an infrastructure which is compliant.
Okay.
So you will automatically get compliant.
All right. So under what scenarios does the organization also need to undertake compliance?
If they use infrastructure as a service, because in the infrastructure as a service, you don't have the control is given to you, no? Half of the control is given to you. So it is the responsibility of yours to get compliant to those resources. Okay, just to put that picture. Okay, 1 second. I'll just put that picture easily. It will be, here's my whiteboard. This one. We remember this, no? See, yeah. You are choosing infrastructure as service. That means you are responsible for compliance of all this. You are choosing platform as service. You will be responsible for compliance of this. You are choosing software as service. You will be responsible for the compliance of this because this is already taken care by the vendor. Shared responsibility model. So even the cloud provider will take the responsibility as long as it is within some requirements.
So then 27001 would be applicable for the infrastructure as a service too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even for a software service also is available as long as if the provider is not taking. See, almost all the providers will take the responsibility for their infrastructure because it's very clear, no? It's very evident that it is the service responsibility, supplier responsibility or provider's responsibility. This is our responsibility. For example, you cannot say, okay, hey, you cannot tell to Google that, hey, Google, give me Gmail access, Gmail database access. I will ensure 27001 is compliant. You will never tell that. You will say, Okay, I had a contract with Gmail. Let the Gmail do the complaints. If the Gmail is not following the complaints as per the contract, I will sue them. That's why in the risk assessment, there is something called as risk treatment, right? In risk treatment, what do? Either there is something called risk avoidance or risk acceptance or risk transfer. Correct? Risk transfer, risk avoidance, risk. What else will be there? Risk transfer means what? I'm transferring the risk from my head to someone else's head, like insurance. You take insurance, no, you're transferring your risk to them. So that's called as risk transference. So here risk transfer will come into the picture. That's why we need to understand the compliance again. If you are getting into this mode or into this area, you need to understand that part, like how to how to link risk sheet or risk assessment with your contractual agreements. And say, boss, okay, even though think about a service like this. For example, you take service now. We all know service now, no? IT service management system. Security components are also there. Now think you are purchasing. And okay, let's ask this example. In your current organization, dear, what is the email provider are you using? Which email provider are you guys using in your current organization?
Microsoft.
Office 365.
Office 365. That means Office 365, is it a SaaS product, PaaS product or IaaS product?
Software.
SaaS product. That means if it is a SaaS product, you don't have access to the server. Correct? You don't have access to the infrastructure. But how is your company compliant to ISO 27001 then? Many of your organizations are 27001 certified, no? How are you certified? When you are not patching all this, the reason is you, if you have your risk manager with you, or if you know your risk manager or IT compliance manager, just talk to them. You know what they will say? Okay, boss, we are using Office 365. That's fine. But we have a contract with Microsoft on all the compliance rules of 27001, which they very clearly tell that we are following ISO 27001. In turn, that credits are passed to us. So your auditor, whoever is coming to audit you, when they see the agreement between Microsoft Azure and you, they will realize that it is a risk transfer that is done and the transfer is going to happen on a Microsoft. You know what kind of questions the auditor will ask? They will not ask you, show me the patch management for your Office 365. You know what they will ask? Show me the contract and show me how did you evaluate your contract? Telling that whether are you following due diligence that you are going to Office 365 and checking. You know what is your answer? How will you go and check Office 365 security? You will not. You will say we have a contractual agreement and Microsoft has a Microsoft disclosure policy. Microsoft disclosure policy means any security issue that happens in their infrastructure, Microsoft is abided by disclosure policy. That means Microsoft has to disclose it to everyone on the internet or whoever is using their services. So in case anything happens, Microsoft will go ahead and inform us. So they are abiding by that law or the contractual requirement. So you can satisfy the custom auditor's requirement. Auditor may also ask, can you show me an instances where Microsoft has reported you some of their disclosures? Obviously, you will receive so many Microsoft emails, which we don't read. First of all, you skip it. Many IT people, many compliance people, they skip it. But in reality, they will send. So you can take any of these emails as a communication evidence and then show it to the auditor. And auditor will also be happy because he just need whether you read or not, auditor will not see. Whether you have received the communication or not from Microsoft, they will see. The next question is he can ask you, what action did you take? Then if you don't answer, then it will be a compliance point at the time of audit. Am I deviating from the technology? We'll stick to the technology. Yeah. I hope you guys are getting that overview, right? End-to-end overview of what things will be there.
Yeah, sure, definitely. It's very helpful.
Now let's go ahead and create a simple vault, and then we will take a break, and then after coming back from the break, you can continue. So I have a simple thing. I'll search for key vault. Just go to key vaults. Now there are no keys. There are no key vaults to display. Let's go ahead and create a very simple vault. So I'm going to use MSDN subscription. You are going to use Azure Pass and the resource group. I'll just go ahead and create a new resource group. Again, it doesn't matter whatever the name resource group you want. I'm just saying KV testing. Okay, it's a new resource group I'm creating. And what is the key vault name? You can just give any key vault name. Key vault testing Nishant 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the vault name it is. See, vault name must be between specific characters. Yeah. And in which region you want your vault to store. If you are following Data Protection Act, if you are supposed to follow Data Protection Act, you know where you should store your keys. You should store in the region where you are. For example, if you have a data center in India, you have to store it in Central India because you cannot store keys outside your country. If you are following GDPR or data privacy or data protection acts. And standard pricing tier, I don't want to go for premium. See, if you go for premium, it includes HSM backed keys, but I'm going for standard, the cost will be less. Yeah, Sri.
Yeah, that was my question actually. So does it allocate a specific HSM for each of this, or can it be even shared because
It's
it's
a
a cloud?
shared. The first one is a standard, which is a shared one. Or if you want very specific, you can go for a premium. Yeah, then do you want soft delete to be enabled? By default, it's enabled. And what is the retention of the soft deletion? And disable the purge protection. So if you disable the purge protection, it will allow the key vault and objects to be purged during the retention period. If you enable it, it will enforce a mandatory retention period for deleted vaults and vault objects. This is not that important. Let's go to the next. Access policy. Now, this vault, who should access? Do you want Azure virtual machines which are deployed on Azure to access it? Do you want Azure Resource Manager templates to access this vault? Azure disk encryption for the volume encryption. That means, do you want to encrypt Azure disks with the keys that are stored in this key vault? If yes, what policy? No, if you don't want to have vault based access policy, you can create Azure role based access control. So for each role, sorry. For each role, you can say, hey, this role has access to Azure Vault. This role doesn't have access to Azure Vault. Which model is good? Azure role based access control model is good. But at this moment, we are going with the default configuration. Say, I can write a policy and see here, I can control what permissions that Nishant Kumar should have. Nishant Kumar should have key permissions. He can get the key, list the key, update the keys, create the keys, import the keys, delete the keys, recover the keys, backup the keys, restore the keys. He can do cryptographic operations like can he decrypt, can he encrypt, can he unwrap the key, wrap the key, verify the key, sign the key. Can he purge the key, release the key? Can he do key rotation, get key rotation policy and set key rotation policy? Now tell me, don't you think this itself is a full identity and access management kind of policy? This itself is big, no? See, for one user, if you have so many options, think about 30,000 users in your organization. So you need one vault engineer only doing this job. Or you need 3-4 engineers. Now this is only key permissions. Then you have secret permissions. Then you have certificate based
Sorry to interrupt,
permissions.
Nishant. I have a question here.
Yeah.
There is an option for decrypt there, right?
Yeah.
So does it mean that the administrator would be able to decrypt any encrypted data?
Yes.
Keys,
He will be.
which
He will
could
be able
be
to.
confidential communication of the end user?
Yeah, he can do it. As long as he has the key, he can decrypt it. So that's why writing a right control will be important. You cannot give administrator decrypting privileges. You should never give an administrator decrypting privileges. You can ask me, Nishant, there will be one super admin who will have everything. Yeah, that person has to be trusted. You cannot do anything. For example, today also you are implementing backup. You are telling that backup is encrypted. Who is encrypting the backup? The backup admin, correct? So if the backup admin thinks, can't he decrypt and see the data? Correct, no? Can he see the data if the backup admin thinks? Okay, let's ask. I have an SSL offloader in my organization. I'm the SSL offloader admin. Can I do a debugging 7 capture and see what you are doing? I'm doing debugging 7. Level 7 debugging I'm doing on the device. That's it. I can see everything that your traffic that is being passed. So that risk is there everywhere. In cloud or non-cloud, that risk is there. Yeah. And next, networking. Now, from where this vault should be accessible? All networks or selected networks?
Sorry
Network?
again. I just have one more question here.
Yeah.
So if that super admin can do these activities, then will the super admin be part of the organization which is asking for the services? Let's say if government wants to take up some cloud services, then the super admin is going to be from government working in the Azure office premises.
I think they are not that intelligent enough, is what my feeling is. They will not go so much because they don't understand it. But I'll tell you one simple example. My cousin works in income tax department, Bangalore. In Bangalore, there is an income tax department server house, which is done by Infosys. Infosys actually uh, have taken the tax project. Okay, so Infosys appoints a CPE. There's a company who actually runs on it. All of the engineers there having access to all your income tax data. All of them have access to your income tax data. But from projection point of view, what do they say? We have the best security in the place, correct? No one can access, but administrator can still access your income tax data. How? That is why at the administrator level, you will put controls. There will be one admin. Yeah. There will be 3 or 4 administrators who combines their key to decrypt the data. That's called as key sharding. We use a technique called as key sharding, where using one key, you cannot decrypt the data. There are 3 or 4 keys which you can use to decrypt the master key. And that master key can be used to decrypt the other keys. There's a level of keys that you maintain in a regular environment. Okay, I'll just complete this and then I'll answer more points to this. Okay, now do you want to allow your key vault from all networks, selected network, or a private endpoint? I just want to allow from all networks. Click on create, and that's it. We will be creating a simple vault. So click on, I'm waiting for the vault to create. Okay. It's validating, and once it gets validated, I will go ahead and create it. Validation passed, let it create. It will take 1 or 2 minutes. Meanwhile, I'll explain the concept of sharding. The document is easy to see. Okay. This is for your purpose. There are more things to it. Okay. There are something called as encryption key, which is protected by a root key. That root key is protected by key shares. So for example, if there are 5 key shares, you can put a policy telling that minimum 3 people are required to decrypt the root key. To get the root key, minimum 3 people are required. So if the 3 people are there, then only you can get the root key. If the root key is there, then only you can get the encryption key. Now, Nishant, what are the chances that all the 3 people is corrupted? There are chances. There are chances in an organization that the 3 people are corrupted. That's why you will take senior management into the picture, whom you feel that These guys are responsible. But Nishan, senior managements are not technical, no? They don't know anything. Yes, that's true. Many senior managements don't know technology. That's why they give username password directly to the senior administrator. Let the administrator manage. Yeah, if this administrator is compromised, you cannot do anything. Not only in cloud, this is everywhere. Even in your data center also, if the senior administrator who has access to everything, if he is compromised, you cannot do anything. That's why you have peer check policy, peer review policy, where any activity done by one user should be reviewed by other user, and the one who has access to the SIEM will never have access to the other administrative areas. So if I am the Active Directory administrator, I will never have Splunk administrator access, SIM admin, because if an Active Directory administrator have access to Splunk administrator, then he can go ahead and do some modification, delete the logs, and he will go to Splunk and delete the logs. What will you do? You cannot do anything. So now this kind of complex policies you need to put. I know these are not possible. Ideally, this is how you need to keep it. But is it possible to do this? It is not, because I cannot afford to hire more people. No. See, somewhere you have to compromise. Either you hire more people, increase the security, or decrease people, compromise the security. These are real world facts. Huh? These are the real world facts that happen on the day-to-day life, which many organizations ignore. Yeah. Yeah, I think my vault is created. Go to the resource. So if you go to the overview of the tab, you see every keyword has a URI. Every keyword has a URI. Now this URI should go into your application, whichever application it is. Whether you write a .NET application, whether you write a Java application, whether you write a Python application, using your application, you need to call this URL. You need to call this URL. So how we will do it? If you go to the keys, are there any keys at this moment? No. Are there any secrets? No. Are there any certificates? No. So I can go ahead and store keys, certificates, and secrets. Let's go ahead and create a simple secret. Now, do you want to restore from a backup, or do you want to generate or import? So it's asking you, do you want to manually upload, or is it a certificate? Yeah, I'll say manual. Now, what is the name of the secret? What is the name of the secret? My password. And what is the password itself? What is the password itself? And what is the content type? You can just go ahead and say password. You can go ahead and say key. You can just say API key, whatever you name. It's just a name. Now, since from what date to what date it should be active? What date to what date it should be active? And when should it expire? Do you want to enable the secret, and do you want to put any labels? That's fine. I'll just create a very simple one. We have just created a simple secret. We have just created a very simple secret. Now, if you click on the secret, you see secret maintains the versions. Why it should maintain the version? Obviously, no. My application will rotate. Now I should know the latest version of the key. Yeah, if you want new version, see, if you want new version, you can change the key immediately. You can change the key immediately. Manual version change, manual rotation. Yeah. If you want to download your backup, the backup of this secret will be encrypted to Azure Key Vault and can only be restored in Azure Key Vault within the same subscription. So if I download this also, if I open, I cannot do anything with it. If I download and open it, I cannot do anything because I cannot read the data. I have to upload it back here to read it. Yeah, but Nishant, how do we access this key? We need a method to access, no? From which program? From your Java program, from your .NET program, you can access. But Nishant, how? So you need to start writing Java and .NET program. So I'll just go ahead and show you a very simple. How many of you are comfortable with Java, .NET?
I'm comfortable.
Okay. Let's take Java then.
Yeah, Java is fine.
This is the pom.xml. This is the dependency manager. This is the pom.xml in Java, where you will tell that I want to use the Azure Key Vault library. You are telling to your Java program to use the Azure Key Vault library. And then in the program, you are telling that I want to import the Azure Key Vault library. After importing the Azure Key Vault library, you have to create authentication. So this part of the code will tell, see, HTTPS key vault dot azure dot vault dot azure dot net. See, key vault blah 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 dot vault dot azure dot net. The above program, you will pass your key vault. And then how do you create a new secret? This is how you will create a new secret. This function will create a new secret, a random secret. How do you retrieve a new secret? How do you retrieve a secret? See, secret client dot get secret of secret name. What is the secret name? What is the secret name? Example password. How do you delete a secret? Via a REST API program. I hope it is clear how typically Java programs are used to communicate to the vault.
So all these APIs like set secret, delete secret, all of them are APIs provided by the vault service itself, right?
Yes, already the vault has all the APIs designed.
So these are what are the REST APIs you were referring to, is it?
Correct. So Nishant, how do I know REST API? You need to refer this document. You need to refer to these documents on how to use the REST APIs. Because every REST API comes with its own structure, no? So you can use this structure to read, understand, and then implement.
What about payment related to the REST APIs? Something you were mentioning about that we have to buy those APIs, REST APIs.
No, no need to purchase. If you are using this service, REST API is available for you. You will be charged for the number of keys. You will not be charged for REST API. You will be charged for how many number of keys you are storing and what is the number of keys and all. It is based on number of keys you store.
Okay.
And based on the type of key, the charges will be different.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
And does it also include the number of times the read and write
Yeah, n
happens?
number of times you can read and write, but the only thing is for each and every read and write, there is a cost to it.
Yeah.
Does Azure internally provide any take care of any backup mechanism in case the HSM fails because of any
Correct.
reason?
They have, if it is a standard, automatically they have taken care. But if you are taking your own HSM, they will ask you, would you like to have a backup and all? Then accordingly, they will do it. Yes. Any questions from other friends? Are we good? Again, this is a very basic, simple functionality that we have seen of a vault. There is a lot more complexity that we can add it to it by integrating. It's all about now development. How many KPIs you want to call. For example, if you have to generate a key, just see. Now it is asking you if you want to generate a key or import a key or restore a backup. I want to generate a key randomly. What is the key name? For example, I will say my website access, my website key. And then which type of algorithm, RSA or elliptic curve? RSA. Then if it is elliptic curve, what type of key length? So I'll just go for RSA, which we know, 2048, which we all know. Activation date. When do you want to be from when you want it to be active till what date? And then you want to enable this and you want to enable key rotation policy. If you say not configured, you can go ahead and say PCI DSS, or for example, expiry time in days, for example, 365 days. As per PCI DSS, you have to rotate the key in minimum 365 days. Enable auto rotation. Yes, if automatically renew at a given time after creation, rotation time is 18 months. Or I can decrease it to days also. 18 days rotation will happen. 18. See, the value cannot be greater than 358 days. So your rotation will happen within the given time. And then click OK and click on create. So now this key will auto rotate automatically on that time. Now how will you access this key? Same Java program can be used to access the key. And you can download the public key. And you see key identifier. Every key has its own identifier. The unique URL for the key. And if you observe the key, it ends with 082, which is the version. So if you call this, it will call this version of the key. If the key is rotated, then you have to call it with the new version. How do you know whether it is a new version or not? Azure has an API which will tell you that if the key rotation happened, it will push you the new one. There is a tag called as latest. So whenever you use a tag called as latest, it will automatically fetch the latest key, whichever is available at that moment inside the program. That's all about the programming logic, how you want to write. I hope it is clear. We are not getting into programming in this class, but however, those who are very much interested in doing programming and learn independently, what I have done is I have added another module here, which is purely programming. There's a lot of programming and very advanced. If you would like to explore, do everything hands-on, you can go ahead and do it. Yeah, but this is very advanced. A lot of knowledge is required from networking point of view, application development point of view, and certificate management point of view. So I'm just leaving it to you just to keep, anyone who are very advanced users can work on it, which is in .NET. Yes. So what we do, I'm pretty much done with this lab. We'll take a very quick break for 20 minutes, come back from the break, and then you can continue doing. OK. Are we good? Yeah, I'll see you in 20 minutes then. Okay, I hope you guys have started working on this, right? Yeah.
Hi, Nishant. Hello.
Yeah.
When I try to add the rows to the database, it is giving a message like fail to decrypt a column encryption key using the key store provider.
When you're doing advanced vault.
Yeah.
No, advanced vault is not a part of this course. For those people who are interested to do advanced, I have given it. You have to only complete basic, that's it. Advanced is not a part of this course. Because I have some people who are already comfortable with Azure and they want to do some challenges. For them it is a challenge. So not as a part of the classwork. You can do it at home, no worries.
Hey, can you help me in troubleshooting where it is gone? It's actually at the final step.
Yeah, you can share it. You can share the screen.
See my screen?
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Exactly while running this while inserting a patient, inserting a row onto the table, then it's failed to decrypt a column encryption by using the key store provider Azure key vault.
Adding a sample patient data to the data to decrypt a column encryption key. Stored provider Azure key vault verify the properties of the column. So did you replace the Azure key vault with the necessary credentials?
In Azure portal? Yeah, you mean I have given these connection string. I have replaced the client key. I have replaced the client secret as well. And I mean, at least the other things are working. I mean, at least I was able to connect to database.
Application ID. Application ID. Just show me the application ID.
Client ID, client secret. You want to cross check this?
Okay, first, did you this exercise 3 task 5 completed? Huh?
Yeah.
You were able to write the data, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just a second again. So this package manager completed, NewGage package manager installation.
Yeah.
0.7.
Yeah.
Successful.
Yeah. Otherwise, it could have build itself could have been failed. Build is successful means like you have the. Yeah, if you can, I can show you that as well. Yeah, these are successful.
Okay, cool.
And just to understand, is this the secret ID that I have to keep it here?
No, how did you complete step number 9?
Last number? You're talking
Step number 9. Just go me line number 15, line number 15, 16. Connection string is up.
First thing I have copied.
See, you will never pass. See, your password is passing in plain text. You will never pass password in plain text.
Done it. Right.
But
even then, it should not be a problem. This one you're talking.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, that's how you will pass. You will never pass plain text, but your password is a variable. That variable you need to set. When I say your password, it's a variable that is automatically set in the background. So where we need to set the variable then. See, for this variable is not important. The reason is you are giving permissions in this lab. You are giving permissions. Or just replace the password. Let's see. First, let's replace the password and see. If the connection string is working fine, then it's good.
See, the connection string is working fine because I can say that because it's able to, I mean, it can execute this one delete query reset table is one thing.
Reset table is working fine.
It's working fine, which means that the connection string is working fine. The problem I'm getting is this is something related to an encryption or decryption. That's what I assume.
Yeah, true.
I have followed the same steps for birthday date and SSN, which is. Is there any way to check whether this is encrypted or not from this schema?
No, schema cannot give you the encryption details. You just need to run a query. Just run a table, view the table. You can right click on the table and view the table. So the data is not executed. See, all the things are written in UMT.
That insertion itself is failed.
Yeah, insertion itself is failed because the first set of values are not there. So that means your 11 has failed.
Yeah.
Step number 11 in task 5 has failed. Anyway, what we'll do, Venkateshwara, maybe again, you have already reached this stage. I don't want other participants because for other participants, they are not interested in this lab. Because the set of participants we are talking is different background. So what we will do, we'll keep that paused. Maybe we will see at the end of the class if we have time. But that is not a part of the class because I just want because some people are eager, so we thought we'll give them advanced tasks. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's go to the next set of program. Can I assume that everyone have done with this? Everyone have
Yes.
done with this? Okay, good. So
Nishant,
yeah.
I'm having a question regarding the location. As you mentioned, with respect to data privacy and other stuff, we have to select the respective region. Now,
Correct.
let's say if I am creating from India and I am not allowed to select any other regions out of India.
No. So in the data privacy laws, there is a exclusion where there are international treaties. For example, I'm currently in Bahrain. So in India, we don't have a personal data protection law, correct?
Yeah.
So I cannot go ahead and tell what is going to happen in India, but I'll tell you what is happening here in Bahrain. So we have a data protection law here. Okay, the data protection law is very clear. If you would like to share any data who belongs to Bahrain or Bahraini region or have a resident permit of Bahrain or working in Bahrain as an employee or have a CR, that is company registration in Bahrain, their data should not go out of the country. However, in 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons, it can go out. What is the first reason is there are international treaties between the countries where Ministry of Justice here has released a list of countries to whom you can share the data. So to the countries to whom they can share the data is already given. Like that, every country will release the list of countries that you can share the data with without having any explicit agreement.
Okay.
I will show you 1 second international treaties, how it look like. 1 second. For example, now this is the PDPL. It's called as PDPL here, Personal Data Protection Act. So which very clearly tells that so Ministry of Justice, Islamic Affairs and Wafaq on 17th March 2022 recently, records of countries and territories that provide adequate legislative and regulatory protection for personal data. So they are very clear that you can go ahead and pass the data to any of these countries. So they have given a list of 83 countries, and to these countries, you can go ahead and transfer the data. That's absolutely fine. Anything out of this list, you will not be able to transfer. Like this, every country will release a list to whom you can share. So here, when we are building Cloud Bro, we only choose the regions which are there in these countries. We don't choose a region which is not there in this country.
Okay. Let's say now you are working from Bahrain, and will Azure not get customized to the location specific? That will stop
No,
you
they
by
cannot build a data center. No, they cannot just build a data center in every country. Wherever Azure sees demand, there they will put the data centers. If they are putting the data center in that region, then it makes sense for us. For example, I would like to put in Cyprus, but Cyprus doesn't have a data center. Yeah, Finland, I cannot put a data center there. Maybe Greece, I want to put, but I don't have a data center. So I will choose something else. For example, Virginia, I have it. East US, I have it. West US, I have it. Central India, I have it. Canada, I have it. So I just go ahead and put it in that regions. Hong Kong, I have a data center. Southeast Asia.
What if some of the regions doesn't support some of the options which generally
see maximum every region will support every option. Where the options are not supported is in the beta. If it is a beta version of the product, or if it is released very specific to a region, then only it is not available to other countries. Otherwise, most of the generic services are available. And there are some situations. For example, we would like to use Lambda. 3 years before, we want to use Lambda here. Lambda was not fully compatible in AWS. So we never used it because we don't have a service. For example, we want to use GPUs. Before, GPUs were not available. GPU based VMs. So we were never using it. So once the option gets enabled, only we can use it in that region. Because here, again, the region is not everyone in the country follows it, but we as a central bank, we need to follow. There is no other go for us. As a central bank, we cannot deviate from the rules. So we have seen many other customers or other banks here, they have used it. But the only thing is, every government has that enforcement, no? If the enforcement is there and if the government starts putting the fine for the violation of the data privacy law, then people will stop it. Otherwise, people will still use it. So then there is no other go. If you want to deviate, that's fine. But typically people don't deviate just for the compliance issues. Because later, if you want to shut down the systems after building 100, 150 servers, integration and all, later you cannot take a decision to make it down, right? That's why it's better to be proactive.
agree. But again, out of curiosity, I'm asking these locations, what is being listed here, and let's say there is some location which is not listed here, but still we get to see and we have we selected that, but in Azure,
think you have selected it. Now the law is enforced. What you have to do? You have to remove it. No, Nishant, I will not remove. Okay, fine. Let's face the GDPR kind of fines. If this is so strict for like GDPR, then GDPR fines are applicable. For example, I'll show you just a few examples of GDPR fines where they paid millions of dollars just by violating the country. And we are talking not about small companies, we are talking about Google.
Correct. So Azure will not give a prompt saying that you're in your region.
Why will they give you a prompt? They are only telling that I am only supporting 6 regions. You selected that region. That is your mistake, not Google's mistake. Sorry, not Azure mistake. How do Azure know that you belong to data privacy? In your country, PDPL is applicable or not? Oh, your bank is applicable with PDPL. They don't know. We only provide services in these regions. Now you choose smartly whether you want to go with it or not. For example, you are accessing the Gmail from India. Why will how does these guys know that you are accessing from email? I can sit in US also and create an email from India. Can't I create?
Yes.
Then how will the country will restrict? How will Gmail restrict you? So otherwise, Gmail will ask you to access your credit card and debit card. The moment you say credit card, debit card, you will not use the service. That's something which is happening, no?
Okay.
So these are some things that has to be taken into consideration when building infrastructure. Many people don't consider that.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll give you some examples. Maybe that will actually give you a little idea. Yeah, I'll give one case study of this. Again, it's not like I'm deviating, but these are helpful when designing infrastructure in cloud. This is something which you cannot ignore. Yeah, I'll just put the case study here. Just go through this for 10 minutes. I'll like 10-15 minutes only it will take. I'll just break it. It's sentences. Just go through this. You will understand the impact of it. This is GDPR, a very similar to Data Privacy Act in India and Personal Data Protection Law in other countries. Just go through this. It only takes 10-15 minutes, but it makes sense when building infrastructures in cloud. So Spanish Data Protection Authority, like India has their own data protection authority, Spanish will have their own data protection authority. And we are talking about a Google paying 1 million, 10 million euros fine. Again, this is nothing to do with cloud, but it is just to understand the importance of creating infrastructure in the right region for the right country for the right service. Hope it is clear. Yeah, just go through this for the next 10 minutes, then we will talk about it. Just as a knowledge one.
Just a fundamental question, like how will they quantify this fine? Like it is based on the impact that created.
Oh, that is the most complex subject. I'll tell you, if I show you GDPR, you will say, man, this is so much of confusing. I'll show you the GDPR fine criteria. OK, after reading this, I'll give you the criteria. OK, it will be so confusing. OK, after reading this, you read the GDPR fine criteria that I have sent you. The most complex thing. It is like this. I bet someone with a computer. Yeah, is it a cyber crime or a criminal crime? I bet someone with a computer. Criminal crime or cyber crime?
Criminal.
But the definition of cyber crime tells that any medium and any usage of electronic good to attempt a harm to some person is considered a cyber crime. Now, this is an electronic good, right? I'm using this electronic good, or I'm actually throwing a laptop at someone and he got head injury. Attempt to murder case or cyber attack? So this is
Still
how
the attempt, but
no, this is from the perspective of the judge you need to look at.
Physical
Intention. See, intention matters here. Intention matters, not the method. If you take method, you will never give a judgment. You have to give intention here. What was the intention of the person? Was the intention of the person to hit someone, or the intention of the person is to do something else? Yeah, anyway, that's all. See, that's all lawyer thing. We don't want to get into. We learn only technology here. Because I'm not a lawyer, so I cannot also say. I can only tell you some scenarios because I came across them. Yeah, just go through this, and I have given you the GDPR. In what cases they will put the fine, then we will talk. I'll just give you 10 minutes to go through this. Yeah. I hope it is clear, no? But let's understand one small thing. For such a silly reason, do you think Google is ready to pay 10 million fine? See, we all know that Google is a better company than our company. That's a fact, right? It's a fact. Yeah, they have one of the best technologies in the world. They have one of the best they are one of the cloud providers. So they have so much of detailed infrastructure. They have so much of detailed things. But why they paid fine? Was it a security? Was it is a security reason? Or was it an ignorance? What was it? What is your opinion telling on this?
I mean, this has opened up possible errors in the policies of Google itself. So it's like something.
Maybe the policy is good, but the developer who has developed it could have written a condition. Policies may be there, no? How many developers read policies? I'm just putting a
I mean,
devil's
if
advocate role.
policies, then wouldn't it not be blocked by multiple modules at different points? Only one.
So there are a lot of factors that will actually come into the picture. OK, just to tell you, there are a lot of factors that will come into the picture. Again, this is one small example that we are talking anyway. But you understood, no? Yeah, we are good, right? Just as an example, we have taken this. So it's very important for us to come up with a scenario. And if you got a chance, did you get a chance to go through the GDPR link, the fine one? It will be so confusing. There will be no clarity here. On what basis exactly they will put a fine. So this is left to the judge who is actually doing the assessment at that moment. Yeah. Let's keep that aside. Then we will go to the next activity. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead and delete this resource group. OK, let's do this. So it's around 1 p.m. Do you want to take a break, come back, and then continue with identity access management? Because all the three are identity access management issues only. Role-based access control, Azure policy management, and resource manager. They all belongs to same structure. So if you want to take a break and come back and then continuously do all these things, we can do it. Or no, Nishant, we don't take a break. First, we'll complete one lab and then go. Up to you. I'm not sure most of you guys are in office, sorry, in home or at Reva. Maybe you can suggest me. Then I'll accordingly take a decision.
So do we need to delete our resources once we create RBAC?
I would
I mean,
suggest. I would
no,
suggest.
no. We'll. I mean, the resources which are required in RBAC, is it required for the next lab as well?
No.
Okay.
Not mandatory. See, I have deleted them.
Taking 3 labs at a time.
OK, fine then. We will go
we
for
can
one
break
lab.
it. Yep.
And then we will do the next activity. Now, this is a very simple lab. So I'll explain what you're going to do. So first, we all talk about identity access management, right? In Azure also, you have an identity and access management and Active Directory. So let's go ahead and understand how Active Directory is going to work. So tell me, Active Directory, what is the full name of Active Directory? Oh, Nishant,
ADDS.
Active Directory. What is that?
ADDS. Active
What is
Directory.
ADDS?
Domain Directory
Search.
Active
Service.
Directory Domain Services.
Active Directory Domain Services. ADDS is the full name. Typically we call it as AD, but ideally you have ADDS. So if you look at, if this is your Active Directory, or to be very specific, ADDS. When I say ADDS, it is on-prem. OK. When I say ADDS, it is on-prem. Now you can have an on-premise data domain service and you can have an Azure AD. You can have an Azure AD. Azure AD is software as a service. ADDS is infrastructure as a service. Clear? So you go ahead and create a server. On that server, you go ahead and install Active Directory domain services. This is different in its structure from Azure AD, which is SaaS model. You can go ahead and even integrate them. You can go ahead and even integrate them. So on-prem Azure Active Directory, on-prem Azure Active Directory can be integrated with SaaS Azure Active Directory, that is Azure AD. To be very specific, Azure AD. So you can integrate ADDS with Azure AD using directory services. Using directory services. Do you still have an Active Directory administrator and group policies still in the organization, or are they outdated? We still have, right? A typical integration would look like this. A typical integration would look like this. So before I explain it, I'll give you 2 minutes to read the slide. I'll give you 2 minutes to go through the slide, understand some components, and then we will talk. That will be easy way to digest this data, mainly this set of data.
Nishant, I have a question.
Sorry.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So with so many layers adding up for different complex designs that they are adapting for on-prem to hybrid or whatever is the model they are following, how is cloud ensuring the speed of operations or performance?
One good thing is cloud doesn't have that restrictions of how at what speed you need to do. It is all about SaaS. In the SaaS model, they just give it to you as a service. So let's understand this question. Let's look from this point of view. When we say speed, right? No, speed of implementation or speed of access. Let's think that. Let me
Like
ask this
number
question.
of
Speed of
packets per second, something like that.
number of
Number of requests that can be served per second.
see, for example, I'll tell you this very simple scenario. Let's take a scenario so it's easy for us to understand. So I'm running Netflix. I'm running Netflix. Yeah, Netflix is on AWS cloud. OK, let's take a scenario. Now, there is one person who is having 10 MB internet connectivity. And there is another person who is having 1 Gbps internet connectivity. Who will find better performance? Who will have a better performance? Which user will have better performance?
1 GB.
Person 1
Ideally,
or
1
person
GB
2?
should be having. Yeah. 1
Obviously,
GB
the
should be
person.
having.
That means Netflix is designed to handle 1 Gbps customer also, and Netflix is designed to handle 10 MB customer also. But 10 MB customer will not feel the same satisfaction as a 1 GB customer, because 1 Gbps customer will load 4K video and Netflix is ready to serve 4K video, and 10 Mbps customer doesn't load 4K, maybe 1080p. That doesn't mean that server has an issue. Here it is the client. The same happens between Active Directory. Put Active Directory services. It is ready to handle millions of requests per second. But the end user network is only having a pipe which can only transfer 200 requests per second. So it is the end user's mistake. That's why always let your end user reach the capability that the server has. For example, data centers will have 100 Gbps capability. That means they can handle 100 GB per second capability. Data centers. All the black fibers that these guys use in data centers will have a typical capability of 100 Gbps. But the only problem is we will not be able to reach that speed because we cannot afford that. So that's why at our side, if you look at it, all depends upon what speed I am sending the request. But however, these guys are capable. So let's understand one more simple scenario. For example, if a cloud provider has to protect you against a DOS, at what rate it can protect?
The
At
max
what
it
rate it
can
can protect?
allow.
Yeah, at max it can allow. What is the capability? Azure tells that they are capable of handling 3.47 terabytes per second attack. They are capable of handling 3.47 terabytes per second attack. And they have done it. This is last October, which is a very good number, right? The attack is 3.47 terabytes per second attack at a packet rate of 340 million packets per second. That means 340 million packets per second. They are capable. That too in the Asia region. And
Okay,
they were capable
so
of
this
handling 10,000 sources from multiple countries across the globe. And the attack was lasted for 15 minutes. So that shows the capability of these guys, at what range they can, at what rate they can protect. So that means they have a better internet speed if they have to handle it this.
actually, Nishan, this answers one part of the question.
Yeah.
That is the infrastructure part.
Mm.
But if we look at for adapting for the on-prem ADDS, they have added a couple of more layers. So there is
Correct.
going to be some processing involved even at the software module level.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So what about those latencies? Won't they, let's say all of them are having 1 Gbps all across throughout. Still, earlier, if we just have one, the processing power of the requests, not
Yeah.
just
See,
the
in a SaaS
transmission and
model,
reception part.
in a SaaS model, processing power doesn't make sense. You will not be able to restrict with the processing. I'll tell you why. For example, today Gmail is giving you access. Now, how will you judge on what basis Gmail is giving you and why it is taking so much time? Yes, it's a SaaS model. That's why I said you Azure Active Directory is a SaaS service. It is nothing to do with infrastructure as a service. It is a SaaS service. So in SaaS service, they have an SLA. They will meet that SLA. But in the SLAs, they will not write at what speed they are working. So we don't have knowledge. It's a SaaS. In a SaaS service, we cannot have knowledge. For example, you're running Netflix right now. It's a SaaS model, right? Software as a service. Gmail is a software as a service. Office 365 is a software as a service. Now let's ask the same question. In Office 365, how are you judging at what rate your email is processing? At what rate? How do we judge in a SaaS model? We don't have.
Maybe how, I mean, for
Yeah.
the end user, the experience of usage, how long it takes to open up and opening up
That is
a
depend on your computer. For example, I have an I2, I have an i3 computer with a HDD normally running. and you have i7 with Outlook running, Outlook will behave differently. I cannot compare the speed because obviously on a SSD hard disk with i7 system, the rate at which he uses the rate at which he downloads the file and opens the file will be faster than a regular HDD. How will I compare it? No, this is my point, because after understanding your question, even I had these questions before. So then I realized the way we need to look at it. Correct? No. For example, let's take same scenario. Same email downloading on two different machines. One has i3 with 4 GB RAM and a regular hard disk. One with i7 processor, SSD hard disk. Same internet speed. Let's take same internet speed. Who will perform better? Obviously the one with SSD. Why? It can download faster. Read-write speeds are faster on the disk. Here read-write speeds are not faster. Even though you have good internet connection, read-write speed also matters, no? How fast it will save the data. So these are some factors that will make us that still we will have questions. The reason is these are SaaS services. We cannot judge the SaaS services. What at what speed they respond. This is also a problem with Active Directory.
Okay, so typically when they provide a SaaS service, they won't. I mean, they don't mention about the speed of operation, but they mention about the reliability of the operations.
Operations, because why it is mattering for you the speed. So that's how they look at it. We are giving you service and we are giving you uptime, and the service is available. That's it. So let's ask today one question. You have a Netflix account, right? Now, when you have a Netflix account, Netflix is loading slow. Will you anytime complain that you did not meet the SLA?
No.
Why? See, you are paying a service. See, 1,000 rupees you are paying. That 1,000 rupees is also money, right? Why can't we tell? Because we never read the agreement? Or because we are only paying for the reliability, not for the speed at which it responds.
Okay.
That factor comes into the picture. So in all SaaS, this is why SaaS is clicked, no? Why SaaS models are clicked? Why today everyone is adopting SaaS? The reason is, as an organization, you will have benefits when you go for SaaS. As an end user, you will be in loss when you go for a SaaS. Again, I cannot say loss. It is all subjective. If it is a long run, short run, temporary, it all depends on many factors. So that's why speed of the operation cannot be judged in SaaS model. Yeah, speed you can judge if it is an infrastructure as a service, because infrastructure as a service is in your control, which is ADDS. Yeah, which is a regular ADDS. OK, so you can go ahead and integrate your regular Azure Active Directory to the on-prem Active Directory with a SaaS model. So it's very easy to create a directory in 2 minutes. OK, let me go ahead and quickly do that stuff. So you go here, search for Active Directory. That's it. By default, you will always have Active Directories. See, in my case, my Active Directory name is Nishant Consultant. Similarly, I'll switch to your case. See, there's a directory, no? These are all the Active Directories I have. Default directory. For all of you, you will be in default directory. When you get an Azure account, you will get a default Active Directory activated. A free Active Directory service, which is already activated for all of you. Which doesn't have a license, though. It's a free directory. So what is meant by license? I will tell you in a few minutes, but this is a default Active Directory. You can rename the Active Directory name to whatever you like. Like I named as Nishant Consultant. This is a default directory. You cannot rename the default directory, but you can rename the other directories which you create. At this moment, if you click on Enterprise Applications in this Active Directory, it's trying to load. So you can integrate your third-party applications here. Yeah, I'll just go to the default directory first and then do it. So this is a simple Active Directory, and let's see how many users we have in my Active Directory. So if you look at it, want to switch to the legacy users experience? No. See, it is telling insufficient privileges to complete the operation. Why? I'm the administrator of this account, so I should have full privileges, right? Or do I have, I have 0 users. I have 0 users. Or let me see what is the old method still. So you don't have access to this data, or maybe there are no users. See, 0 users found. So how do we create a user? How do we create a user? You see here, new guest user. Now there is a lot of difference here. There's a lot of difference. In the default directory, you can only create guest users. Yeah. You can only create guest users in the default directory. But an active directory with a license, you can create normal users. There is a difference between invite an external user. Yeah. And there is a difference between a regular user. See. Now, I want you to also do this. Can you all open your default directory and can you all go to user section and tell me whether you are able to create a new user or whether you are able to just invite a user. See, new user, you will not get anything. Invite user. Can I ask all of you to test whether this is working fine or not? If yes, let me know. You have to go and do it in the default directory.
Yeah, this creating new user is enabled in default directory as well.
Okay, good. How about other people?
Yeah, I can create new user.
Okay, good. All of you can create new user.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, so what I will do, I will switch to my original directory. My real directory, I'll switch now. You observe, okay, when I go to my real directory. See, I have a user here, right? See, can I create a new user from here? Can anyone tell me why your user in your default directory you have privileges, but in my default directory, why I don't have privileges? In my default directory, I did not have privileges, but in your directory, you had a privilege. Why? What is the difference?
The license.
But see, both of them are Azure AD free now. The reason is I have, see, I have 3-4 directories. Every time I want to work in only one directory. I don't want other directory to, to be created. So what I had done, I have disabled my permissions. I have disabled the permissions on the other directory. Because otherwise what is happening is initially when I started working on Azure, I was getting confused. Which directory I'm creating, why am I creating in that directory and all. Then I said, OK, I'll disable everything and I'll only keep one directory where every time I log in, I only want to do all the operations in one directory. Because I have so many directories. No, in the initial days, I used to get confused when I started learning, doing things and then experimenting. Then I thought, OK, I'll disable some directories and I'll only keep the one main directory, that is this Nishant consultant directory. See, I have Skills Corporation directory, Reva University integration. I have a couple of other directories. That's why I had a challenge. That's why I disabled. Anyway, now we will be on the same page. So let me go ahead and show you how it is typically done. So let me tell you, you can control your Azure account in 3 ways. You can control your Azure account in 3 ways. OK, first thing. If this is Azure Cloud will give you a portal to control. You can use a CLI and control. You can use a Java program, or to be very specific, SDK to control. Yeah, this CLI also, it supports 2 versions, PowerShell and Bash commands. So there are 3 methods. Using a nice GUI portal, you can control the resources. Yeah, using a CLI, you can control the resources. Using a .NET SDK Java code, you can create the resources. No, if you are a very advanced user, you can go to exercise 2 and exercise 3, where you are going to create users using the command line. You are going to use the users using the command line, but exercise 1 is with GUI. Exercise 1 is with GUI. Exercise 2, 3 is from the command line. Up to you. Whichever method you want, you can go ahead and do it. But exercise 4 is normal again. It's a GUI. Exercise 4 is GUI. Exercise 1 is GUI, but exercise 2 and 3 is command line, whichever is your own comfortable. That's why I have written in the documentation that PowerShell based, GUI based. See here it is done by CLI. This task is done by PowerShell. Exercise 1 and exercise 4 are done by the GUIs. So very simple. We are going to talk about user management here. So in the exercise 1, we are going to create a senior administrators group. A senior administrators group. As a part of the senior administrators group, we have Joseph Price, who is a cloud user, and we have a junior admins group, Isabel, sorry. And then we have a service desk group where Dylan will be there. And then only the person who is a part of service desk group will have contributor access. He can only contribute to VMs. Different roles we will assign it to different people. OK, all the roles are predefined. If you want, you can go ahead and create your own roles. First, we will go ahead and use predefined roles, and then we will work on it. Let me go back to my Azure console, search for Active Directory. I'm in my Azure Active Directory. OK, click on add user. So I can just go ahead and create a very simple user. See, create a user. What is the username? So I want to take Joseph as the username. Look at it. Joseph @ look at the domain nishantconsultant.onmicrosoft.com. Your domain will be different. Your domain will be your Gmail ID that you have used. OK, so this is the full name. This is the full name of Joseph. I'll copy and keep it. And username, and you can give his full name. You can give his first name. Now, this is very important. Do you want to auto generate the password, or let me create the password? If you create the password, you have to give him. If it is auto generated, let it auto generate for you. Yeah, let it auto generate and you can see the password. I'll just copy it and keep it somewhere. Just copy it and keep it somewhere safe. Yeah. And then I have a couple of groups. Now, at this moment, I'm not assigning him to any group. OK, I have a couple of groups. I can create a group and assign them. Or I have users. Now, see, you can look at the role. You can add him a role. You can make Joseph as a application administrator, application developer, attack payload author, attack simulation administrator, attribute assignment administrator, attribute assignment reader. There are so many roles that are available. But you see, to create a custom role to a user, your organization needs an Active Directory premium P1 or P2 license. They need a P1, P2 license if you would like to create your own custom groups, custom roles. At this moment, we will only use the predefined roles. There are so many predefined roles that are available. Now, if you are into IAM, Identity and Access Management, then you have to go ahead and understand all these roles, importance of each of them, and then allocate accordingly the resources. I hope you got it. Now, at this moment, I'm not assigning him any role at this moment. OK, I'm just creating a very simple user. And then block sign in. Yes or no. At this moment, I want him to sign in. Now, this is where it plays a very important role. You see, there is a location. Now, typically, when you create an Active Directory user, will you select a location in your Active Directory domain services, ADDS? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But here you can go ahead and select. What is the benefit? Think this user belongs to United States. He works in a United States office and his credentials are accessed from somewhere else in the world. It will auto block. It will auto block this guy because he is supposed to come from United States region. Think if he's connecting to VPN and he is exiting from Germany, then he will be blocked. When I say he will be blocked based on our permissions, we can make him block, or we can make him to solve a captcha, or we can make him to enter an OTP. We can do that. Multi-factor authentication can be enabled. And his job title, blah, blah, blah. And who is his manager? You can select it and click on create. So now a simple user is created. If you go to the user section and if you reload this page, you should see him. You should see the new user that got created. Yeah, Joseph Price is the new user. Clear? Now let's go ahead and create a groups. So you go to the user section and trust me, this is the most confusing thing. Many people will get confused on which option is where. So that's why be very cautious, know where you are. So if you go to the groups, OK, I already created groups long back, so I'll go ahead and delete them. I'll just delete it for you. Now I'll create a new group. Now there are two types of groups. Very important to understand this. One is called as a security group. The other one is called as Office 365 group. Now, if you go ahead and create Office 365 group, what will happen is you will get a group email ID. You will get a group email address. Like in your own organization, you have business units, no? Each team has their own ID, right? That is from the Office 365 point of view. Then you have security groups where you can go ahead and put policies on these people. It's integrated. Office 365 is integrated. When you activate Active Directory P2, P1 license, Office 365 gets automatically integrated and enabled. And they will get licenses also. But you will pay for the P1, P2 license cost. Yeah. Now, what is the membership type? So if you select Office 365, the membership type is assigned. That means by default, you are assigning it. You are assigning it. There is self-service also. So at this moment, ours is a security, senior admins, and who is the owner of this group? Who is the owner of the group? As of now, Joseph is going to be the owner. Joseph is going to be the owner. I selected Joseph. And who are the members of the groups? At this moment, Joseph is a member of the group. He's also the owner and he's also the member. And click on create. So we have created a simple user called as Joseph, and we have created a group called as senior admins. Yeah. So if you go back to consultant, you look at the groups and then you see the groups senior admins. Now, what does the senior admins can do? The senior admins can do something, no? You have some reason, right, to create these users. Click on roles and administrators. What role we have assigned them? Did we assign a role to them?
No.
Not yet. But to assign a role, what you need? A better license, because you cannot write custom roles. Yeah, you should only activate the roles that were already there. So at this moment, no roles are assigned to him. We will assign the roles later. We'll assign the roles later. And click on back. So please observe where I'm clicking. I'm not clicking here. I'm not clicking close. I'm clicking users. I'm always going back to Nishant consultant. So this is a practice that you make. So it will be it will make your life easy. Now, whatever I have done is a simple user creation with GUI. I can absolutely use PowerShell. Like you see here, there's a Cloud Shell. I can use even Cloud Shell to go ahead. So let me create a Cloud Shell. So you can just choose MCT. I'll just create a storage. Automatically, it will create everything for me. Just a storage account will get created because whatever the operations that you are going to do, no, they will be stored in the storage account. It needs an operating system to run. So on the storage account, automatically everything will get enabled. And then any configuration that you do, any changes you do, a copy will be stored in that storage account so that next time when it retrieves, it will retrieve the configuration from the storage account and then it will give us the shell. So this is called as Cloud Shell. So you can perform all operations from this command line. Can I install the Cloud Shell on my computer? You can install, no problem. You can install the Cloud Shell on your computer also. Yeah. Microsoft UI, something like that to do. OK. Now I can go ahead and create a first profile. I have to create something called as password profile. How do I read in PowerShell? How do I read a statement in PowerShell? Echo only, right? First, we will create a, again, this is from command line. Whatever you have done with GUI, you can do it with command line. Yeah. So after creating a password profile, you will enter the password and then you will connect to the Azure Active Directory. Get your domain name and then create a user. Create a new user. You can see create a new Active Directory user and the username is Isabel Garcia. Password profile is the profile which we have created before. And what is her principal name? Observe, it is called as principal name. User principal name means it is called as username. User principal name or username are same. In Active Directory CLI, it is called as principal name. In GUI, it is called as username. And why is that? Oh, I don't know why it is kept like that. Yeah, and Isabel at the rate domain name. Rather than writing the domain name manually, we have already stored the domain name in a variable and from the variable we are using it. And then account enable true and nickname is Isabel. Whatever you have done with this GUI, you have done it with CLI. That's it. Whatever you have done it with CLI, you can exactly do it with a Java program. Whatever you have done, you can be done in Java program, you can do it with infrastructure as a code. Or even with a shell script, or even with a ARM templates, you can do it. Yeah. Now I can also create a group. See, junior admins group is created. It will get the list of groups. Now I will add Isabel to the junior admin groups. I have added Isabel to the junior admin groups. And then you can list the people who are part of junior admins. Isabel is a part of junior admin. I hope it is clear. Now we can create another group called a service desk. And then you can do all the operations. This time I'm switching the shell. Currently you have done all the activity on PowerShell, right? Again, it's not mandatory for you to remember PowerShell commands. OK, it's not mandatory. I'm just giving a small. See, there are some complex PowerShell also, but we are starting to learn PowerShell from very basic fundamentals. These are very fundamental user creation. OK, we can do same thing from Bash shell. That means you can switch to a Linux shell. At this moment, this is a Windows based PowerShell. You can move to Bash shell. You can switch to Bash shell from here and you can do same activity from the Bash shell. The domain name. There is domain. Get the domain name and then create a user. Create a user called as Dylan Williams with his principal account and list the users. PowerShell commands are different. Bash shell commands are different. Now here we have created a user with Bash shell called as Dylan. And then we can create a service desk group also. We can create a service desk group. And then we can list the groups. And then we can fetch the list of users who starts with Dylan. And then we can assign the Dylan to a specific group. We can assign Dylan to a specific group. And verify the list of users who is part of service desk group. Now, Nishant, can we do everything from GUI? Absolutely, you can do everything from GUI. You can do it from a PowerShell. You can do it from Bash shell. You can do it from Java program, or you can use any infrastructure as a code tools like infrastructure, Terraform, or any other tool. Yeah. Now, is it
Nishant, I
mandatory
have a
to
question.
remember? Not mandatory to remember the commands. Yeah, Sri Krishna.
Uh, is there any maybe 27,001 kind of standards which recommends what should be the organization of what are different groups, role-based groups for an
No,
organization?
no standard will tell you what type of organization groups you should have. No standard in the world will tell you that. Why? Because your organization is different from my organization. Every business is different. Then the group names and all cannot be defined.
So let's say if we talk to a few senior administrators from different companies, there should be some common pattern there, right? Like they all will be recommending there have to be like whatever you're showing, even senior administrators group should be there, and then junior administrators, service desks like that.
No, it all depends. See, I have a different opinion here. My opinion here is It all depends upon organization. For example, ideally HR. So for example, ideally security team should be different, IT team should be different, and security and IT team should work together. Is one method of looking at it. In another organization, we have IT security team, IT team, security team, both are same. In some organizations, firewall admin is different, proxy admin is different. In my organization, firewall admin, proxy admin, IT administrator, active directory administrator is only me. That is because of the organization. So there is nothing like a specific pattern. One senior admin from Infosys will tell, oh, we should have, for every firewall reviewer should be different, firewall approver should be different. Proxy configuration will be done by a different person and implementation will be done by a different person. But a person who is in a startup, you cannot afford to take so many people. So what you will say, you will hire one person and say, hey, you are the IT admin, you are the Active Directory admin, you are the firewall admin. Both of them are running their jobs. So that is the reason I cannot define anything here in this case.
Understood. Thanks, Vishnu.
Yeah. OK, good. So let's go and make a GUI now. Now at this moment, if I go to users and we have Dylan, Isabel and Joseph. Now let's go to a simple resource group and create a resource group. I'll go to a simple resource group, create a new resource group. Yeah, in East US, I'm creating a resource group. Yeah, for this resource group, if I go to access control, yeah, to this resource group, you see, view my access, add a role assignment. Click on add role assignment. And then you see there are so many roles that are there. I will take virtual machine contributor. Select virtual machine contributor is a built-in role and it comes under compute category. I'll select virtual machine contributor and which user, which group, which service principal should do the job. I will select all members of service desk. All members of service desk can go ahead and do operations. What operations? Whatever is there in the virtual machine contributor. Yeah, so all service desk engineers can perform virtual machine contribution in this resource group. Any questions? Review and assign, review and assign. OK, we have assigned the role. Any role assignments you can see here? The one which we have assigned. See, user access administrator. That means Nishant can do. He's a root. He can do all admin. He has all permissions. User access administrator. He has all permissions. But a service desk engineers can only do virtual machine contribution only on this resource. So if I go to check access, in the search, I can go ahead and search for Dylan. And go to Dylan and see what permissions he has. See, Dylan has a role called as virtual machine contributor, and he's a part of service desk group. And he has access to AZ500 Lab 01 resource group. Yeah, let's do the same activity for Joseph also. Yeah, let's do the same activity for Joseph. Joseph. See, Joseph doesn't have a role. Joseph doesn't have a role. He doesn't have DNA assessment or classic administrators. Why? Because he is not a part of service desk group. Only Dylan was a part of service desk group, and we have allocated. Okay, one thing I don't like, this is my personal opinion about Active Directory, is it's not easy. Directly you can eat, but Active Directory will teach you on surrounding your entire head and then eat. There is an easy way to do things, but Azure Active Directory make it complicated. That is what I felt. AWS identity and access management is far easy than Azure AD. This is my personal opinion. Huh? Okay, any questions? Yeah, so okay, with that I'm done with the lab. So just want to know, you want to complete this lab and go for a break? It's around 1:40. You can complete in the next 20 minutes and then go for a break. Make sense?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Yeah. Next 20 minutes you can complete this and take a break and then come back at 3 and then we'll continue the session. Meanwhile, I'll be on mute. As of now, you have not seen the reality of why I am telling Active Directory that you will see in the next classes. Why I said like that. Here it is showing easy, but there are some more complex which will make you confusion. And that only comes with time. No worries.